Hi guys, welcome back to MassiveSynth.com tutorials. This is part 2 in the Psy Trance feature we've been doing this month, and in this tutorial I was going to show you how to make an effects loop sound inside Massive and also using some macros to just give some variation with the sound. So let's start off by creating a new sound in Massive. Go for oscillator 1. I'm going to make this a crude waveform. I'm going to make it bend plus as well, and just pull this intensity down to around 3/4 of the way up, and pull the wavetable position down slightly. Going to route it to filter 1. Just going to be using filter 1 for this sound. Turn on oscillator 2. This is going to be a VA PWM. And take the pitch down by 2 octaves here, and that's just beefing up the tone of the sound quite nicely. Keep the pulse saw position and pulse width all the way to the right. Amp can stay on full, route to filter 1. So let's go ahead and set up this filter 1 here. So we're going to use a band reject filter. Push the band width and the resonance up to around 2/3 of the way up, and now we'll get quite a nice tone when we sweep this cutoff frequency. We want to kind of have that happening automatically, so we can use a performer here to control this cutoff frequency. So let's go down to this first LFO slot here and select the drop down menu there, and let's select it to be a performer. Click and drag the crosshair to the cutoff frequency here, first modulation slot on this cutoff frequency, and click and drag down, so we've got this modulation amount going downwards here. So you push the amount of cutoff frequency up to just past the F here. So we've got this performer now modulating this cutoff frequency. So let's set up this performer. Can sync it for starters and take the ratio right down to 2/1 actually, so we've got quite a slow sort of sweep going on. And what I wanted to do was set up 2 different X-fade sequences here. So we've got this kind of option to sort of flip between 2 different sounds. So pull the steps down to 1, and for the top X-fade sequence we can just keep the sawtooth wave like that. Check the low curve, and for the bottom X-fade sequence let's just reverse that curve. So now we've got that sweep going in that direction. Pull it down here, and the sweep's going in the other direction, which is quite a cool thing to have, that sort of versatility with the sound, just to flip it on its head using this X-fade sequence. We could actually use a macro to control the X-fade sequence. So click and drag the crosshair of this first macro slot into this X-fade sequence box. Click and drag down, so now we've got, I can rename this direction. And let's move it over to the second LFO slot here. I'm going to use a performer again, and we're going to modulate the pitch of both the oscillators using this performer. So hold down shift, click and drag the crosshair, drop it in the first pitch modulation slot on both of these oscillators, and then let's take the modulation amount up to +12. So now we've got this performer is controlling the pitch of these 2 oscillators. So let's set up this performer. We can sync it, set the ratio down to 1/4, and we're going to set up 2 different sequences here in the top and bottom half of this X-fade sequence. So pull the steps down to 4. Let's just pull all these down so we're not getting confused with what's going on. And so for the top X-fade sequence, keep it like that. Actually, we'll just load in the curve here and just have a slightly more plucky curve on the first step. So, and let's move this X-fade sequence down to the bottom now and set up something like this. Quite a cool sort of pattern with the sound, and again we can use a macro down here to control this X-fade sequence. could rename this pattern. So now we've got just those macros just controlling the sort of shape and the filter character really of the sound. So it's just quite a cool thing to just kind of flip these on its head if we're using this sound of one of our productions, just to keep it quite interesting, plenty of variation in there. So next up we can just set up this oscillator section, just check the restart via gate, pull the glide time down to 0. That restart via gate is just going to give us a nice consistent sound, re-triggering all the oscillator phases with each new key that we press. So move over to the voicing section, give the sound 2 voices, make it monophonic, and just going to turn this pitch cutoff on and move this slider down, so it's giving us quite a nice quite a rich sort of tone on there, quite a chorusy tone. I thought it was maybe when I was putting this sound together a little bit too extreme, so took this value down to 0, just take this value to 0.43, which just dials down that kind of like unison spread a little bit, so it's not quite so extreme. Move over to the envelope section quickly, just sharpen up the attack, and the last thing to do with this sound is set up some effects. So in the first effect slot, let's set up a reverb, just pull the dry wet down a bit and push this colour up a bit. And in the second effect slot, let's set up a chorus, so pull this dry wet down and pull these other values, rate, offset and depth, down a little bit. And let's turn this feedback on and just push this amp up a little bit, just to thicken up the sound even further. And there's our sound come together, a kind of FX looped sound in massive, quite useful for Psy Trance, not exclusive to that genre, just quite a cool way to control effects using performers and macros. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you found it useful. Any questions, then please get in touch, and hope to see you again soon. Cheers. Bye.